Well, it looks like, according to rumors, J.K. Rowling might be finally reminding all of us that she is in fact a radical feminist, and not actually on our side of the culture war, as she has tricked many people into believing she is. It's despite her stance as a TERF, being something that is frequently labeled as a right-wing position, the term literally means trans-exclusionary radical feminist. So let's not forget the latter half of that definition when discussing J.K. Rowling. But this is all coming ahead as some rumors about the potential castings for the Harry Potter show have officially started to come out. With the only one that seems to have any legs whatsoever is the rumor in regards to who's going to be playing Severus Snape, which is one of the most important roles when it comes to Harry Potter, as he is one of the most intimidating and impressive characters in that universe. For the first few years, you have to create a system where people are afraid of him and terrified of his every move, and later come to respect this cruel man for who he actually was, a man who was dealing with his personal hell every single day, and was constantly fighting against daunting odds of an extreme nature, dealing with lying to Lord Voldemort, and as well as having to deal with the son of the man who abused him for years. So for a character who requires so much respect, probably second only to Dumbledore, how exactly is Warner Bros. Seemingly treating this role? Are they treating it with utmost respect and keeping it as lore and book accurate as possible? Well, that's a pipe dream. We all know the answer to that, and of course not. Instead, Warner Bros. Decided to show us that they like a little bit of dark chocolate when it comes to their potion masters, and decided to have it leaked out there that the person who will be playing Severus Snape, possibly, it hasn't been confirmed yet, and the contract has not been signed, but reportedly this is who they are eyeing currently to play Snape. Is the actor Paapa Essiedu? I have no idea how I'm supposed to pronounce that, and I don't really care to figure it out. Who is currently being eyed to play Severus Snape in HBO's Harry Potter TV show as an exclusive from The Hollywood Reporter, written by Boris Kidd and James Hibbard. Why did two people write this article? This article is like 4 paragraphs. I say correctly. Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 paragraphs long. Why did you need 2 writers to write a 6-paragraph? Oh, whatever. I can't deal with Hollywood Reporter. Now, I personally have no idea who this actor is. I have no idea any of these things he's been in. I've never heard of I May Destroy You, but I only want to hear those words coming out of Henry Cavill's mouth. And as I said, so far no actors have been officially cast in the Harry Potter series, which is aimed for a 2026 debut, although Bridges by actor Mark Rylance is close to being signed for the critical role of the wise and powerful headmaster Dumbledore, which, while not a horrible casting, I don't know, he's got too much of a creep vibe about him for Dumbledore, if you ask me. The show is hot enough to conjure up several actor rumors, although the ones summoning Cillian Murphy for the role of Lord Voldemort are not correct sources add. Although the star who had originally played Voldemort during the movies did go ahead and endorse that casting, and I think Cillian Murphy could do a pretty good job as Voldemort, though I don't know how well he can do intimidating. Admittedly, I haven't seen very many Cillian Murphy movies, but he does seem like a fairly competent actor. But because that's just a rumor that has no substantiation other than the endorsement of Ralph Fiennes, who played Voldemort in the original movies, we can only go on the Essiedu casting rumors, or however you say his name. And it leads me to this pretty funnily written article coming from Daily Mail. Harry Potter trolls are not thrilled with the casting of Severus Snape, which they call woke. And the funny thing is, they actually link a ton of different comments made on X in regards to this casting, and none of them are trolling. In fact, every single one of the comments they bother to highlight bring up incredibly vital comments and incredibly vital points against this casting. Severus Snape is very detailed in his description. It's not up for debate as to what you think Severus Snape looks like. It is plainly spelled out. As Blabbering Collector on X pointed out, the way that J.K. Rowling sketched Severus Snape from the 90s is that he looks very vampirish and very... Well, he looks like his family might have a bit of an investment in Gringotts, but that's beyond the point. He is described as a thin man with sallow skin, a large hooked nose, and yellow uneven teeth. He had shoulder-length, greasy black hair which framed his face in curtains, curling lip, and dark, penetrating eyes that resembled tunnels. Now, problem is, not to be too biologically determinist, but none of these traits are things that naturally occur in black people as a general rule. Sallow skin, I don't think I've seen very many black people with sallow skin. Large hooked nose, not typical phenotype of black individuals. Yellow uneven teeth, that one they can have. Shoulder length, greasy black hair, which framed his face in curtains. Natural hair generally doesn't fall that way for black people. Just as my hair naturally does not form into a fro as much as I wish it would. And then the point of curling lips, once again, generally as a rule, that is not in the facial structure. For a perfect example, let's actually look at the guy they cast as to not just sound like racist generalizer. Let's take a look at this man. This man seems to have eaten very well, does not have sallow skin. His eyes are not sunken. His mouth is not thin and does not have the space to be curled. And his hair does not have the mechanisms required to be shoulder length or cover his eyes in a curtain. Unless you put Severus in dreads, but then are you really going to compare the dread hairstyle that is so common amongst black individuals to the greasy, unshoveled, unwashed Severus Snape? Here's the problem. When you do this kind of casting, when you race swap, usually you end up writing yourself into corners that look really bad. So you mean to tell me that the only black teacher in Hogwarts is teaching the dark arts? Is that really what you want to say? Are you really going to tell me that you're going to take the only black professor at Hogwarts and you're going to throw him in the dungeon away from everyone else? Are you really going to tell me that you're going to have the black guy, the only black member of Hogwarts, be constantly chasing Snow Bunny's tail? And yeah, we're just going to casually have two white boys beating up a black kid because that's not going to look bad optically. That's one of the big issues when you do something like this. You make things that should be completely innocuous, and you can easily make it so it looks, well, terrible when it comes to how it's done. You are literally writing the racist jokes yourself. And while these are the jokes I would make anyway, let me be very clear. I do not believe in these things that I joke about as a general rule. There's what I believe, there's what I joke about, and there's small overlay. But you are going to create a system where people are going to constantly be making these jokes, making fun of the DEI choices you are making because, well, the jokes write themselves. This is literally to the same extent as taking an Asian character and naming her Cho Chang, which actually did happen in Harry Potter. Not to mention, Harry Potter as a franchise has a ton of beloved black characters. Why are we so insistent on devaluing those characters and instead of raising them and making them more important, such as actually giving Dean Thomas his due in the TV show? Dean Thomas was a very influential character in the book, so why don't we give him his due and elevate him to the status he deserves? But since I've wasted 7 minutes pining about nothing important, let's actually go through this Daily Mail article because there's a lot of valuable points made in it, albeit accidentally, as Jacqueline Lindenberg and Madison Burge for Mail Online have zero interest in actually being honest in this article. One of the thoughts shared under this article, I'm sorry, but there's only one man who can be Professor Snape. Shame on HBO for going near this. It's just going to ruin something that should be left well alone. Now, let me be clear about something. I love Harry Potter, I love the movies, I love the books, and I'm really excited for TV show. I love Hogwarts Legacy as well. Harry Potter is one of those franchises that's really important to me as a general rule. And let's be very clear, I loved Alan Rickman. I love Alan Rickman as an actor. He did nothing wrong in Love Actually. It was entirely Emma Thompson's fault as to what happened in the end of that movie. And I will fight on that hill until I die. But Alan Rickman wasn't Snape. Alan Rickman played an amazing character. He did an amazing job. And his Snape is definitely shaping in people's minds how they see Snape for the rest of time. Problem is, that's not Snape. Snape isn't a 60-year-old man. Snape is supposed to be... So Snape was a student with Lily and James Potter. They were both 22 when they died, I believe it was. Harry's 10 when he starts. So at the oldest, Snape should be 34 if we're going to leave some wiggle room for variance. Snape shouldn't be that old. Of course, that's an issue with a lot of the characters in this. A lot of the adults are overly aged. But at the same time, he did an amazing job. So what this TV show should do is it should do absolutely nothing to emulate the movies, but it should stick to the source material as much as possible, including getting as utterly close to accurate as you can with the different characters in the show. Like, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this man right here, and he has the intimidation level of a chipmunk. Another person had written that Paapa Essiedu shouldn't take this role for his own benefit. He could be the best actor in the world, but he doesn't fit the characteristics of Snape from the book, and that's very true. It doesn't take a whole lot to alienate you from every single member of the audience. Taking a role that you realistically shouldn't be playing, especially if you take it in bad faith or you attack the fans after they criticize you for taking that role, just leads to negative perception and can completely ruin your career with only one project. Now, I thought it'd be a good idea to go and check to see if Paapa Essiedu, or however you say his name, I'm saying it wrong every single time and differently every single time, so that's fun, had actually said anything in regards to the Backlash, and it looks like he has privated his account. Though I'm not sure when he did that, as I'm not quite sure how to discover that information. I tried checking Social Blade, but it didn't really tell me anything of value other than the trends in his follower count. So at least that's one thing he's doing smart, as in limiting his exposure online so that he isn't alienating people this early in the process if he is to actually be the person playing Snape. Another user wrote, "I don't understand the push to change everything from the original context," and another wrote, "Paapa Essiedu is being eyed for the role of Professor Severus Snape in the upcoming Harry Potter TV series, another classic that goes woke." Interestingly enough, they never really elaborate on that, and I'm referring to the article itself, because, well, you'd think they'd have an issue to complain about, but the point is, it is kind of woke to race swap, and race swapping is, for the most part, never permissible. Because here's the thing, some people argue that maybe he could be the best actor for the role, but here's the thing. If you don't look like the character that has an established appearance, you cannot be the best actor for the role 9 out of 10 times. Another person wrote, "Sorry mate, Paapa Essiedu, but you can't be Severus Snape." A social media user added, well, one shared, "Of course, because when I read the description of Severus Snape in the books, Paapa Essiedu is exactly who comes to mind." And someone else added, "Greasy shoulder-length black hair, a hooked nose, and shallow skin. Does this sound like Paapa Essiedu to you, or any person of color for that matter?" And that was exactly the point I was making earlier. It is a pretty much exclusively white description that was given for the appearance of Severus Snape. It's not the kind of thing you can realistically generalize to other individuals. And this is a good comment down here. "Harry Potter were the first books I read as a teen. They will always hold a special place for me. Call me a racist, I don't care. Paapa Essiedu is simply not Severus Snape. Congrats HBO, you are the new Disney, I'm out." And the thing is, it is not racist to complain about a race swap, because race swapping is the far more racist act. Especially when you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is being done exclusively for the point of virtue signaling. And as I was saying, despite some backlash, others came to the defense of the Black Mirror actor with the fan typing, "Might not occur to Harry Potter fans that Paapa Essiedu simply was the best person for the job." And as I literally just said, because of the way that he looks in comparison to Severus Snape, he physically cannot be the best person for the job. In similar measure, Ryan Gosling or any white person cannot be the best person for the job of playing T'Challa, cannot be the best person for playing any of Jackie Chan's roles. A white person will never, just about never, be the best person to play a minority character, with the exception of voice work, because when it comes to voice work, anybody can play any character as long as they can do it convincingly. So when it comes to live action, no, it is literally impossible for Paapa Essiedu to be the best actor. And this comment right here, Paapa Essiedu is a phenomenal actor, and in another world, this would be a fascinating, inspired bit of casting. Unfortunately, this show, ironically enough, is cursed from birth. And well, yes, there is an issue in regards to this thing. It's that, well, you have to be a slave to your source material. If you claim to be the most realistic and most accurate adaptation, which is what they are claiming to be, then you must adhere to the principles of the novel. There are ways in which you can say this is a reimagining or something along those lines, or say that you are taking inspiration from the book, but you're not translating the book, and then it is more okay, it's still not okay, but it's more okay to do these kind of race swappings, and do these kind of more inspired casting. And yes, it would be wonderful to think about a colorblind world where Paapa Essiedu was picked purely because he's a phenomenal actor. Now, given the fact that I've never heard of him, I highly doubt that's the case. But also, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that when it comes to race swapping, meritocracy is the last thing in anyone's mind. It's all about pushing an agenda with these people. Now, HBO did come out with a small statement about this. In statement regarding Essiedu's casting, HBO told the publication, "We appreciate that such high-profile series will draw a lot of rumor and speculation. As we make our way through pre-production, we will only confirm details as we finalize deals." Now, I'm not really sure whether or not that leads me more towards thinking that this is a true rumor or false rumor. I'm not really sure. In fact, something that I could really see as being a possibility is that this wasn't actually a leak. This was to test the waters of the market. It's entirely possible that this was intentionally fed to Daily Mail by HBO or by the Harry Potter production as a way to basically have them gauge how the audience would react to a race swapping in Harry Potter. I kind of hope that's what they're going for because, well, let's be honest, I'd much rather that than them fucking around and finding out, instead testing the waters to see if people are okay with that. And at this moment, it looks like the audience has responded unanimously. Do not fuck around with Severus Snape. Keep it as close to the book as possible because the book is already diverse. There's no need to swap anything to make it more diverse. Now, it is also worth pointing out that HBO had doubled down and defended J.K. Rowling when people had called for her to be removed from the product. Now, the real reason HBO doubled down and defended J.K. Rowling is because J.K. Rowling has full control over the IP. If they try to do something without her consent, they lose access to the IP. Now, something that was a huge concern for a lot of people on my sphere of the internet was when the casting call came out, in which it had made it very clear that we are committed to inclusive, diverse casting. For every role, please submit qualified performers without regard for ethnicity, sex, disability, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, or any other basis protected by law unless otherwise specifically indicated. And this led a lot of people to thinking they're going to do a lot of race swaps. Now, personally, I agree with Ryan Kinnell. They should definitely race swap the Weasleys. So instead of having the Weasleys, you have a black family who's dirt poor and keeps having kids because they can't be bothered with contraceptives. Or race swap Hermione, so we have a bunch of people calling the black girl Mudblood. Or race swap Harry, so we have another black protagonist who lacks a father figure. Or race swap Sirius Black, because his last name is Black, so he must be. Or, I don't know, let's just race swap every single last house elf to make it just as diverse as possible, so that all the black characters end up enslaved to the white wizards. Do you see the dangerous slippery slope we're playing right now? But to me, this doesn't read as them saying that our show will be filled to the brim with diversity casts. Instead, this reads as, we legally cannot say anything else. We legally must allow for every single person to submit, no matter their immutable traits. If you you cannot violate these traits that are based on the protection of law, regardless of whether or not it matters for the show. You have to respect it, because otherwise you are violating UK law. Now, but the other thing we desperately need to consider is the fact that J.K. Rowling, as I said at the beginning of this video, is a radical feminist. She believes in almost every single far-left ideology except for one. And let's not forget, J.K. Rowling doesn't have an issue with trans people because they're trans. She has an issue with trans women because she sees them as men. J.K. Rowling isn't a transphobe, she's a misandrist. She hates men, and she thinks that men are pretending to be women, and that's why she has an issue with that. It has nothing to do with transgenderism, it has everything to do with her deep-seated hatred of men. Now, that might have shifted over the years as she has constantly been dogpiled for her beliefs, instead of having people actually talk to her about them. She might eventually have moved to the point where it's actually the trans issue and not an anti-male issue. I'm not entirely sure. Personally, I don't follow up on what J.K. Rowling says because I don't give two damns. But it is important to keep that context in mind that for the longest time, J.K. Rowling has always been a radical feminist, and we must definitely be on guard to see if that pops up in Harry Potter, because just because she disagrees with the far left on one idea does not mean she disagrees with them on every idea. But that's pretty much all I've got. Let me know in the comics. Do you think there's any world in which Paapa has any chance of doing this properly, being a good Severus Snape? Do you think he's actually going to get cast? And do you have any interest in this show given what we know already? And I will see you guys on the next one.